Dinar Shift, reporting on the ongoing narrative surrounding the Iraqi dinar and the nation's profound economic transformation. The global financial community is currently focusing intense scrutiny on emerging reports suggesting a pivotal shift in the long-held institutional perspective toward the Iraqi dinar IQD. For years, the currency has been primarily viewed outside of Iraq as a collectible, often relegated to the niche of speculative investment circles rather than acknowledged as a mainstream exchangeable global asset. This perception, fueled by decades of geopolitical turbulence and economic sanctions, has established a significant barrier to the dinar's international acceptance. Now, a potential development involving Chase Bank, one of the most prominent and respected financial institutions in the United States, is signaling that this narrative may be on the cusp of a dramatic and consequential transformation. If verified, the reported decision by a bank of Chase's caliber to begin accepting or processing specific Iraqi dinar notes could represent a watershed moment in Iraq's determined effort to achieve economic normalization and secure comprehensive international recognition. The symbolic weight of a major Western bank engaging with the Iraqi dinar cannot be overstated. Chase Bank possesses immense institutional influence, and any move it makes is typically the result of extensive internal review, risk assessment, and consultation with financial regulators. This level of engagement, even if initially limited, suggests that the bank's internal models are recognizing tangible progress in Iraq's fiscal and monetary systems. It lends a crucial layer of credibility to the 2 decades of policy reform, infrastructure rebuilding, and fiscal recalibration that Iraq has undertaken since 2003. This is not merely a procedural change, it's an acknowledgement that Iraq's economic rehabilitation process may have finally reached a sustainable and recognized stage. Such news would reflect a fundamental turning point in how global markets perceive Iraq's monetary system, suggesting that genuine stability, trust, and renewed credibility are at last taking root in a nation long associated with economic volatility and deep historical uncertainty. At the heart of these emerging reports is the 25,000 Iraqi dinar note, a specific denomination that carries considerable historical and emotional significance within Iraq. Since its introduction during the early phase of post-2003 reconstruction, this banknote has been more than just currency. It has served as a powerful symbol of resilience and national rebirth. It represented the tangible determination of a struggling national economy to regain its footing after years of conflict, sanctions, and isolation. The note became an emblem of Iraq's commitment to rebuilding its financial and institutional identity from the ground up, providing a physical representation of the hope for a stable future. However, for a long time, the note was largely dismissed by conventional economists and financial critics, who maintained the view that the dinar was primarily a speculative or novelty item, creating a persistent divide between optimistic holders and the broader financial mainstream. Should the claims about Chase Bank accepting this particular denomination prove accurate, the prevailing narrative surrounding the dinar would undergo a dramatic and definitive shift. An acknowledgement from an institution of this global standing would effectively elevate the dinar from the speculative margins and firmly place it within the mainstream of financial recognition. This move would carry the implication that Iraq's comprehensive, long-term commitment to stabilizing inflation, modernizing its antiquated banking systems, and substantially increasing its foreign currency reserves is finally delivering verifiable and concrete results. This moment would transcend a simple policy adjustment. It would represent profound symbolic validation, signifying that Iraq's extensive reconstruction efforts are effectively transitioning into genuine, systemic international recognition. It sends a clear signal to the global market that Iraq's financial instruments are entering a crucial phase of international acceptance, transforming the 25,000 note from a mere relic of recovery into a herald of financial credibility and renewed market confidence. Prominent dinar market analyst FRANK26 has consistently provided detailed commentary on Iraq's economic evolution, and his recent analysis suggests that the country's monetary transformation has moved decidedly beyond theoretical policy discussion and into the realm of tangible institutional reform. According to his interpretations, the Central Bank of Iraq (CBI) is exhibiting a crucial shift in focus, prioritizing real-world implementation and actionable measures over mere rhetorical announcements. This transition reflects a serious and disciplined intent by the nation's monetary authorities. One of the developments highlighted in his analysis is the introduction of the new 500 IQD note. While seemingly minor to the casual observer, this smaller denomination holds considerable implications within the strategic context of currency policy, particularly concerning the necessary steps nations take toward monetary normalization. Historically, nations that are strategically preparing for a significant revaluation or redenomination of their currency often begin by introducing new or enhanced smaller denominations. This strategic move is designed to actively facilitate domestic trade and simplify everyday transactions for the general populace. The ultimate goal of such a step is to encourage citizens to conduct daily commerce using their own national currency, the dinar, rather than relying on the US dollar. This reduction of dollar dependency is a crucial, necessary precursor to achieving genuine financial sovereignty and ensuring the local currency is functionally integrated into the economy. FRANK26 interprets these specific moves by the CBI not as isolated events, but as essential components of a broader, carefully coordinated plan explicitly aimed at reshaping and fortifying Iraq's entire monetary architecture from the ground up. The analyst emphasizes that these systemic reforms are far from random or merely symbolic gestures designed for public consumption. Instead, they are the verifiable result of consistent, intensive collaboration between the Central Bank of Iraq, the Iraqi Ministry of Finance, and a network of key international partners who have been supporting the nation's long-term economic recovery. This observed level of strategic synchronization across governmental and international bodies strongly points toward a deliberate and cohesive blueprint for Iraq's systematic reemergence as a credible and active economic player on the world stage. The clear emphasis on introducing and circulating lower denominations, boosting domestic currency circulation, and implementing comprehensive banking modernization all signal that Iraq is actively building the indispensable foundation for a much stronger, more independent, and ultimately self-reliant currency system, a prerequisite for sustainable growth. The profound implications of Iraq's recent, disciplined monetary progress extend far beyond the technical scope of the financial sector, touching directly upon the very essence of national sovereignty and self-determination. For decades following periods of conflict and sanctions, Iraq's internal economy has been heavily dollarized, meaning that a substantial portion of its trade, internal transactions, and personal savings relied on the US dollar rather than the local dinar. This deep dependency arose from years of war, instability, and a pervasive lack of confidence that undermined the national currency's standing. However, in recent years, Iraq's national leadership, meticulously guided by the central bank and backed by robust economic reform initiatives, has been taking decisive and measurable steps to fundamentally reverse this historical pattern of currency dependence. Tangible evidence now strongly suggests that Iraq is strategically preparing to mandate and conduct increasing portions of its crucial international trade, particularly in the vital sectors of energy, agriculture, and manufacturing, utilizing the Iraqi Dinar RV instead of relying solely on foreign currencies. This represents a monumental and transformative development, one that not only signals a determined shift toward achieving true financial independence, but also marks a profound restoration of the nation's economic dignity and control over its own fiscal future. By actively encouraging both local and international trade partners to settle their transactions in IQD, Iraq aims to systematically strengthen the fundamental demand for its currency, stimulate robust internal liquidity within its financial markets, and strategically foster a deeply ingrained culture of confidence in its monetary system among its citizens and international partners alike. This bold process of internalizing key economic controls represents a critical reclaiming of financial sovereignty for the nation. If these reforms continue their successful trajectory, Iraq could effectively attract powerful new waves of foreign direct investment, establish a greater, more predictable stability in its exchange rates, and potentially inspire similar, necessary transformations across other developing nations that are actively seeking to escape the vulnerability of deep currency dependence. This is significantly more than a simple technical fiscal adjustment. It serves as a powerful and unambiguous declaration that Iraq fully intends to define and control its own economic destiny on its own terms, free from historical constraints. It is a strategic effort to build a stable, domestic financial ecosystem capable of supporting long-term, self-driven growth. If the reports concerning Chase Bank's reported acceptance of the 25,000 Iraqi dinar note are indeed substantiated, the resulting implications for global financial markets and the community of long-term investors would be nothing short of profound. In the intricate world of finance, market perception often operates as a powerful precursor to market reality. When a dominant global institution like Chase Bank grants recognition, even in a limited capacity, to a currency that has historically been marginalized, it broadcasts an extraordinarily powerful and unambiguous message across the entire international banking community. Chase Bank's formidable credibility and vast institutional influence mean that even its limited engagement with the dinar could trigger a widespread reconsideration of the currency by other major global financial institutions. This potential shift would initiate a gradual but powerful change in the long-standing narrative surrounding Iraq's monetary legitimacy. Such institutional developments are almost never spontaneous. They typically emerge only after extensive, careful evaluation, meticulous risk assessment, and detailed consultation with relevant financial regulators and policy bodies. Therefore, any such move by Chase Bank would likely be interpreted as a calculated and highly significant signal that the institutionally necessary confidence in Iraq's financial future is measurably and sustainably growing. For the dedicated investors who have consistently maintained faith in Iraq's long-term reform trajectory, this potential recognition could serve as tangible validation that their patience and belief in the fundamental changes occurring were strategically justified by the improving financial fundamentals on the ground. Moreover, this potential recognition by a major global bank aligns perfectly with Iraq's much broader, stated policy objectives to achieve full reintegration into the global financial system and to decisively reestablish trust among international stakeholders, regardless of whether this reported acceptance is strictly limited to specific, pre-approved cases or if it genuinely signals the nascent beginning of more widespread institutional recognition. The resulting symbolic impact remains enormous and undeniable. It represents a significant, emerging consensus that Iraq's core economic institutions have successfully matured, its practice of fiscal discipline has improved demonstrably, and its national currency is now seen as deserving of a legitimate seat at the global financial table. This crucial shift could ultimately pave the way for deeper integration into international trade frameworks, the formation of stronger financial partnerships, and a renewed sense of global confidence in the Iraqi dinar's long, Term potential for stability and growth. For a substantial period, the Iraqi Dinar has largely resided in a distinct realm of speculation, a topic extensively discussed in countless online forums and dedicated investment circles, yet consistently lacking the necessary formal acknowledgement from established financial institutions or the mainstream community of traditional economists. This long-standing dynamic now appears to be actively changing, as compelling evidence mounts that Iraq's monetary policies are systematically evolving toward greater transparency, stronger structural coherence, and ultimately enhanced institutional credibility. Historically, the beginning of active engagement by major international banks with currencies that were previously undervalued or restricted has frequently served as a highly reliable early indicator of pending major fiscal transitions, whether these take the form of revaluations, redenominations, or broader, sweeping monetary reforms. The same guiding principle could very well apply to the current situation in Iraq. The Central Bank of Iraq has been executing a detailed series of calculated and deliberate measures, including the tightening and rigorous oversight of its currency auction systems to effectively prevent speculative manipulation of the exchange rate. Concurrently, it is actively working to systematically reduce the nation's deep-seated reliance on the US dollar and has strategically introduced those crucial smaller denomination notes, specifically designed to actively encourage and facilitate the everyday use of the dinar in domestic transactions. These combined reforms powerfully demonstrate a clear, strategic intent rather than being the result of chance or simple reactionary policy making. They form an integral part of a comprehensive and deliberate framework, explicitly aimed at strategically rebalancing and stabilizing Iraq's entire economic infrastructure for the future. When these measured steps are viewed collectively and holistically, they overwhelmingly point toward a nation that is methodically and consciously building confidence in the fundamental strength of its own currency, both domestically and internationally. The critical shift away from a narrative dominated by speculation toward one built on institutional credibility is a process that is undoubtedly gradual but remains unmistakable in its direction and momentum. As the global financial community continues to observe Iraq's disciplined and consistent reforms, the possibility of a revaluation or the establishment of a significantly stronger, more sustainable exchange rate gains much greater credibility. This potential change is being driven not by unsubstantiated rumor or speculative hype, but by the tangible realities of demonstrated fiscal responsibility and comprehensive administrative modernization. The transformation suggests that the dinar's long, challenging journey from deep uncertainty toward robust international recognition may now be decisively entering its most crucial and final stage. Beyond the technical scope of currency reform, Iraq's broader national economic agenda powerfully reflects a determined and concerted effort to fundamentally modernize its national framework and systematically break free from the historical and crippling dependency on oil revenues alone. The Iraqi government, in strategic and technical collaboration with influential global institutions such as the International Monetary Fund's IMF and the World Bank, has implemented a detailed, multi-pronged program specifically targeting rigorous fiscal discipline, greatly enhanced transparency across all financial sectors, and the comprehensive modernization of public financial management practices. These institutional partnerships are playing a vital role in helping Iraq establish best practice accounting standards, significantly reduce wasteful public spending, and actively attract credible, long-term foreign investment through the implementation of verifiable, good governance practices. Simultaneously, the Central Bank of Iraq (CBI) continues its relentless efforts to refine and strengthen its oversight of all domestic and foreign currency flows. Its wide-ranging initiatives, from the digitization of payment systems to the rigorous monitoring of foreign exchange transactions, have received commendation from international economists who note the visible, measurable progress in curbing corruption, stabilizing exchange operations, and significantly improving overall market efficiency and fairness. These steps are designed to build a robust, modern financial system. Furthermore, economic diversification is gathering substantial momentum in strategically targeted sectors. Key areas like agriculture, renewable energy, advanced information technology, and manufacturing are now increasingly attracting both proactive domestic entrepreneurs and essential foreign investors alike. This crucial shift toward a multifaceted, balanced economy, supported and reinforced by systematic financial reform and strengthened global cooperation, is fundamentally redefining Iraq's economic position within the Middle East region. The encouraging result is an economy that is no longer solely characterized by acute crisis or the sheer process of physical reconstruction, but one that stands confidently on the cusp of genuine global competitiveness and technological innovation. Through the consistent and disciplined implementation of reform, Iraq is successfully positioning itself as a sustainable, genuinely investment-ready nation capable of achieving profound economic independence and ensuring long-term growth stability. As this reform process accelerates and deepens, several critical economic and monetary indicators will serve as the necessary verification points, determining whether the nation is truly approaching a new era of definitive financial recognition. The first and arguably most influential sign will be any official exchange rate adjustments made proactively by the Central Bank of Iraq. A measured, gradual appreciation or a tightly controlled adjustment of the official rate would send a clear signal of growing confidence and the establishment of genuine macroeconomic balance, reflecting actual market conditions. The continued and accelerated release of additional lower denomination notes, specifically those in the 500 IQD range and potentially others, will serve as further structural confirmation that the government is actively preparing the financial infrastructure for currency normalization. This complex process fundamentally requires a stable, well-functioning internal economy and an actively engaged domestic market that utilizes the national currency. Another essential and highly awaited milestone is the formal expansion of IQD access on major global forex trading platforms, a move which would dramatically enhance the currency's overall liquidity, transparency, and cross-border usability for international businesses. Finally, the most conclusive and powerful evidence that Iraq's currency is truly gaining international acceptance would be the verified, official use of the IQD in international trade settlements, particularly for its critical energy or commodity exports. Each of these signals, when observed and confirmed independently, would be genuinely encouraging. However, when taken together, they represent a comprehensive and meticulously planned roadmap toward full monetary rehabilitation and global acceptance. Investors, international policymakers, and economists across the world are monitoring these specific developments with intense scrutiny. Should these indicators align and verify within the next phases of reform, Iraq could successfully and permanently transition from a high-risk speculative environment to one definitively characterized by measurable financial stability, predictability, and widespread global trust. To fully grasp the magnitude of Iraq's monetary evolution, it is highly insightful to examine the economic transformation of Vietnam, which offers a compelling and instructive parallel that provides both valuable lessons and strong validation. Much like Iraq, Vietnam once faced considerable skepticism regarding its currency, the Vietnamese dong of VND, which traded at significantly undervalued levels for years while investors passionately debated its fundamental long-term potential. However, through a sustained commitment to consistent monetary reform, aggressive export diversification, and massive manufacturing sector expansion, Vietnam has successfully transformed its economy into one of Asia's most rapidly growing and dynamic markets. This proven successful trajectory closely mirrors Iraq's current strategic approach. Both nations are strategically relying on systematic structural reforms, enhanced institutional transparency, and significantly increased international engagement to fundamentally rebuild sustained investor confidence from the ground up. Vietnam's demonstrable success powerfully illustrates that a disciplined, policy-driven approach to complex currency management can over time, gradually but definitively shift global perceptions from doubt and skepticism to respect and confidence. Iraq's own current efforts, ranging from deep fiscal reform to determined anti-corruption enforcement, are strategically positioning it on an unmistakably similar path toward economic normalization and recognition. Furthermore, both the IQD and the VND appeal to a specific class of investors who are seeking long-term value growth and stability, rather than chasing purely speculative short-term gains and quick profits. The journeys of the IQD and VND together symbolize the potent emergence of new economic narratives from historically volatile regions, with each currency illustrating the fundamental truth that committed recovery and consistent reform can indeed reshape the metrics by which emerging market currencies are objectively evaluated. If Iraq continues to diligently follow this proven model, prioritizing sustainable development, fostering regional cooperation, and executing on its export diversification plans, it stands a strong chance of replicating Vietnam's success. This would transform its once highly speculative currency into a global benchmark for economic resilience and verifiable transformation. This focus on fundamentals is what builds lasting value, not fleeting rumors. For global investors and observers alike, Iraq's current monetary and economic landscape represents a moment defined by both immense opportunity and a corresponding degree of responsibility. The persistent, swirling reports that Chase Bank may have begun recognizing or processing the 25,000 IQD note certainly add a layer of dynamic intrigue to an already complex conversation. However, experienced and prudent investors understand that rigorous, verifiable due diligence is absolutely essential. Every claim, especially within the context of the Iraqi dinar market, must be meticulously validated through official, trustworthy documentation and cross-referenced with credible mainstream financial sources to avoid missteps. Over the span of many years, a significant amount of misinformation and often heavily exaggerated claims have regrettably clouded the public's understanding of Iraq's currency, frequently leading to misplaced and ultimately unrealistic expectations. Therefore, the core virtues of patience, keen discernment, and critical analysis remain indispensable tools for anyone actively engaging with or observing this market. Investors should also always emphasize strategic diversification, intelligently balancing emerging currency holdings like the IQD or VND with more stable traditional assets such as commodities, established stock market investments, or technology sector holdings. The most significant, long-term gains consistently belong to those who remain grounded in financial fundamentals, rather than those who are perpetually chasing rumors or speculative market hype. Iraq's deep-seated reforms, though undeniably genuine in their intent and scope, will necessarily require a measured amount of time to fully manifest and translate into verifiable, long-term shifts in market valuation. But as the nation's core institutions grow stronger, more transparent, and its overall fiscal policies mature under international guidance, the fundamental foundation for legitimate, sustainable appreciation becomes increasingly solid and secure. For sophisticated investors who successfully combine a patient, long-term outlook with an informed, strategic approach, the unfolding of Iraq's massive economic evolution could potentially yield substantial and meaningful long-term reward. Exercising appropriate caution and demanding verification today may well prove to be the most critical reason for sustained confidence and successful positioning tomorrow. The overall journey of the Iraqi dinar has been exceptionally long, often contentious, and frequently misunderstood by outsiders, a narrative largely shaped by a complicated mixture of high speculation, hopeful optimism, and pervasive misinformation. Yet the current situation on the ground today appears fundamentally and visibly different from previous eras. With concrete real-world policy reforms actively underway, the strategic issuance of new currency denominations, and the very existence of reports concerning engagement from a major U.S. banking institution like Chase Bank, the entire narrative is systematically shifting from one of persistent uncertainty toward a state of genuine, measurable transformation. The era of relying solely on rumor is drawing to a close. Analysts like FRANK26 emphasize that Iraq's ongoing progress is no longer a theoretical hypothetical or a mere policy goal. It is now visibly measurable, demonstrably sustained through deliberate, improved governance, and reinforced by essential cooperation with major international financial bodies. If Iraq continues on its trajectory to actively expand non-oil exports, strengthen its governance institutions, and prioritize comprehensive financial transparency, the IQD may soon stand as a genuine symbol of economic renewal. A powerful proof that disciplined, multi-year economic reform can successfully convert deep instability into concrete and self-driven opportunity. This crucial movement is about much more than simply adjusting exchange rates. It is fundamentally about successfully rebuilding a nation's core economic credibility from within and strategically restoring national pride in its full financial sovereignty. The world has previously watched Iraq successfully rebuild its physical infrastructure after years of conflict. Now it may be witnessing the much slower, but equally important, rebuilding of its currency's international reputation and legitimacy. What was for so long a topic relegated to pure speculation is now visibly becoming a comprehensive, systemic transformation, one driven not by fleeting rumor but by the verifiable facts of fiscal responsibility, clear policy, and the relentless pursuit of modernization. The nation is establishing a solid, credible framework for a future where its currency fully participates in the global economy, free from the constraints of its difficult past and ready to capitalize on its vast natural and human resources. The continuing reform agenda and the careful, measured steps taken by global institutions to reassess their engagement with the dinar mark a potential, major inflection point in the nation's financial history. The entire global currency landscape is undergoing a structural shift, with once overlooked or volatile emerging economies now stepping much more confidently into the global financial spotlight, demanding greater recognition and respect. Whether you are a dedicated long-term investor, a curious and informed observer, or an active advocate for Iraq's comprehensive economic revival, actively staying informed and critically discerning the facts from the noise is your single greatest asset in this evolving market. We will continue to provide timely updates for all verified developments, informed expert perspectives, and clear, grounded explanations of these complex and quickly moving financial events. In this dynamic era of transformation, awareness is power, and those who strategically cultivate it today may find themselves best positioned to accurately assess and engage with tomorrow's opportunities. The focus remains on factual reporting and verifiable institutional change.